How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ayin Beis, Daf 72 of Masechet Nedarim. Friends, today we're discussing, we're going to talk about when somebody gets divorced. Like, what's divorce considered like? Is it considered like hafara? Is it considered like hakome? And we get to a new Mishnah on Daf Ayin Beis, Amud Beis. Friends, we're going to start Daf Ayin Aleph, Amud Beis. About halfway through the Amud, but the whole Amud is like 2, 4, 7 lines. So if you have a girl, a naira, and she is engaged, and she makes a neder, she says she's not going to eat pizza anymore, and then they get divorced. So is divorce as if like he said, as if he didn't say anything, or is it as if he was mekayim the neder and now she can't eat pizza? So the my nafkamine, who cares? Who cares if it's kishtika or kakama? Kigon shenodra v'shama bayla v'gesha v'hadra b'yome. Well, what happens if she says that she's not going to eat pizza, and then they get divorced, and they get remarried on the same day? So, iyomar mar kishtika dami motzi meferla. So if we say that divorce is considered like silence, well, she said she's not going to eat pizza. They then got divorced. They then got remarried on the same day. So he has the day that he hears about this pizza neder, he could be mefer the neder. And if we say that divorce is like shtika, is like keeping quiet, so she says she's not going to eat pizza, he keeps quiet, in the meantime they get divorced, they get re-engaged, and then now, can he be made for the neder? Until now he's been quiet, he can be made for the neder. But if you say that divorce is like hakome, that he's being making the neder, so then he can't be made for it anymore. He was already making the neder. Right? We learned the other day that he could maybe be shoel, right? He can go and do Taras Nedarim, but he was already making the neder when they got divorced. So that's the nafkamina in terms of if gerushin, if divorce is like shtika or like hakome, the nafkamina is that if he, if they get divorced and re-engaged on that same day, can he then be made for the neder? Tashma coming here. Emosai amru meisabal nisrokna rishos lo'ov. When do they say that if the fiance dies, so then the father could be made for the nedarim alone? Bizman shelo shama haba'al. Only if the fiance did not hear about the neder, and then he dies. O shama v'hefer, or he heard about it and he was made for the neder. O shama v'shasak umeiz bo bayom, or he heard about the neder and he kept quiet and then he died before the day's end. V'i omad gerishin kishtika damu lesnei nami o shama v'gerish. And says the Gemara wants to make the argument that if gerushin, if divorce was considered like keeping quiet, so then divorce should have been included as well. Just like we listed that if he hears about the pizza neder and he keeps quiet and then dies that same day, we should also say that if he heard about the pizza neder and then he got divorced on that day, that should be the equivalent of keeping quiet. Where am I? Midulo tani achim, from the fact that we exclude divorce, so then clearly divorce is not like keeping quiet. Shma mina gerushin ka'akamadamu. So clearly getting divorced is like being making the neder, like saying, okay, if you don't want to eat pizza, don't eat pizza. So that's why it's not included in the list. Ema sefer. The Gemara says not so fast. If we look at the sefer of that brayse, avolim shama v'kiyem. But if he heard about the pizza and he was mekayim it, and he says, fine, so don't eat pizza. O shama v'shasak, or he heard about it and he kept quiet, umeiz bayom shalacharv, and died the next day. Ein yachol lahafer, he can no longer be made for the neder. V'amrid gerushin ka'akamadam. We're going to make the same argument now for the seifa. And if you say that divorce is like being making the neder, so then listening, o shama v'gerish, then listening nami o shama v'gerish, then we should have also included on the list that, right, we had mentioned in the list that if he's mekayim the neder, so then the father cannot be mefer. So if we're listing being Mekayim, so we should also list divorce. If we're saying that divorce is like being Mekayim the neder. And therefore I'll make the argument that the fact that the divorce was not included on this list together with Hakama sounds like divorce is like keeping quiet. Rather, from here it's inconclusive, right? Iresha davke, if the resha is sort of the source of truth, and from the fact that gerushin is excluded from the resha means that it is ke'akama damu, so then nasiv seifa mishum resha. Well, then why wasn't it included in the seifa? Because we were only doing equivalent things from the resha, right? So, for example, we mentioned shtika in the resha, so we also mentioned shtika in the seifa, but we didn't mention gerushin because gerushin was excluded in the resha. Yiseifa davke, and if we say that the seifa is the one that is more accurate, and therefore from the fact that gerushin is excluded from the seifa, which implies that gerushin is like shtika, so nasiv resha mishum seifa. So then the examples in the resha are only sort of to be consistent with the examples in the seifa, but therefore it can kind of go either way. It's inconclusive. The Maise Tashma, come in here. Nadra v'hi arusa. So if she makes a neder, she says she's not going to eat pizza, and she is betrothed. Vinis garsha, and then she got divorced. Vinis arsa bo bayom, and then she got engaged on that same day. Afilu lumea, even to 100 individuals. Avia uvayla achrin mefir nidareh. So her father and the last husband, the last betrothed individual, can be made for the neder. Shmamina gerushin kishtika damu, which clearly means that gerushin is like keeping quiet, right? She says she's not going to eat pizza, and then she gets divorced, and then she gets engaged to 100 other men that day, and her father can be made for the pizza neder with the last guy she's engaged to. So clearly, when the first guy kept quiet, it's kishtika. Clearly, when they got divorced, it's kishtika damu. It's as if the first guy kept quiet, or I guess all of them kept quiet. Di ka'akame damu, because if it's similar to being making the neder, mimotzi made for orus achrin nidre deokim orus rishin. How would the latter engaged individual be able to be made for a neder that was already mekuyim by an earlier husband, by an earlier fiance? So rather, it must mean that gerushin is kishtika. It's like keeping quiet, and that's why the later fiance would be able to be made for the pizza neder. And for the Gemara Lavdavka, you could say, actually, that gerushin, you could argue that it's like being making the neder. It could be talking about where the first fiance never heard about the pizza neder. He didn't hear her say that she's not going to eat pizza. If that's the case, my area bo bayom, I feel like meir yomim nami. Kishlo shama or kishlo shama arus shama of no. Right, it's a little confused. My area bo bayom, I feel like meir yomim nami. So if that's the case, where it's talking about where the husband did not hear it, where the fiance didn't hear it, well then why does it have to be that same day, right? It said in the Bryce, it said, I think it was our Mishnah, Nadravi Arusav Nizkashim Nisasu Bayom. Why does it have to be that same day? If you never heard about it, it could be 100 days later. So Kshelo Shama Aruz Vishama of, but it's talking about where the fiance didn't hear about it, but the father heard about it. And therefore, Dafka on that day, the father could be Mayfair of Mikan Velech Lo Matzi Mayfair. But from then on, he couldn't be Mayfair. And therefore, when it says Bo Bayom, it's talking about the father. Right? Einachinami, that the fiance, if he didn't hear about it, he could be Mayfair at another time. But the father, he heard about it that day, so he has to be Mayfair that day. Tashma, come in here. Nadra Bo Bayom. I'm sorry. Okay, Nadra. She says she's not going to eat pizza. Bo bayom gersha v'echzir. Nadra bo bayom gersha v'echzir bo bayom. Okay. That if she makes a neder, she says she's not going to eat pizza. They get divorced. They get re-engaged. Ein yachol lahafer. He can't be mefer. So he can't be made for the neder. Why not? Shma mina gerushin ka'akomedam. It must mean that gerushin, getting divorced, is like being making a neder. And therefore, because it's right, therefore, when they got divorced, he's being mekayim the neder, and therefore when they get re-engaged later that day, he can't be made for it. Amrei Ochab benisua askina nobody. We say no, that brisa is talking about a married woman. V'hainu taima, and the reason why when they get divorced and then remarried that day, he can't be made for the pizza neder from before they got divorced. Then yachol from mishum de'en abal made for bekodnim, because a husband is unable to be made for nedarim that preceded their marriage. He can't be made for nedarim that preceded their marriage, and therefore when she says that she's not going to eat pizza, then they get divorced that day, and then they get remarried that day. So the pizza neder happened before the current marriage, happened in the previous marriage, and therefore he can't be made for that neder. Says the Mishnah derech Tamidei Chachomim that the way of the Torah scholars ad shelo hoisa bito yotza me'etzlo. So prior to his daughter getting married, right? So you have a father, and now his daughter's mom is going to get married, and he can no longer be made for her nedarim anymore once she's married. So if he's a Talmud Chacham, what he would do is there Tamidei Chacham ad shelo hoisa bito yotza me'etzlo. Prior to his daughter leaving his rishus, leaving his ability to be made for a nedarim, Omerla, he says to her, Kol nedarim shenodart bisoch beisi, any vows that you vowed in my house when I have the ability to be made for the nedarim, harei hein mufarin. Then they're already considered being mufar, being annulled, and therefore, there's nothing. He's being made for the neder. There's not going to be any situation where she'll be held accountable to those nedarim. He's being made for them. V'chein abal, and similarly a fiance who is a Talmud Chacham, ad shelo tikonis lir shuso, until she enters into his rishus for marriage. Omer lo, he says to her, kol nedarim shenodart ad shelo tikonsi lir shusi, any nedarim that you make before coming into my rishus, harei ein mufarin, they are mufar shemishatikonis lir shuso enu yachol offer, because once they get married, he wouldn't be able to be made for any prior nedarim. So therefore, before they get married, he says, hey, if you have any nedarim, let's be made for those now. But Rami Bar Chama asks the kasha, says the Gemara, Baal Mausha Yofer below Shmiya. Can a husband be made for nedarim if he hadn't actually heard them? Vishama Isha Davko. Do we say, look, he actually has to hear them? The pasuk says Vishama Isha, that her husband will hear the vows. Oh, Lav Davko. Or do we say that he doesn't actually have to hear them in order to be made for them, right? So you could just say, look, any vows that you have are mufarin, even though you never actually heard them. Omar Rove, says Rove, Toshma, come in here. The ways of the Torah scholars, before their daughters would leave them to get married, the father would say to her, any vows that you made in my house, he's being made for them. And he didn't hear them. He said, look, you're leaving my rishus now. I no longer have the ability to be made for your nedarim. Any nedarim that you made until this point, I'm being made for. He didn't hear them. So l'chishama hu de made for. So we say, yeah, but when he hears them, that's when he'll be made for them. So he would actually have to hear them. Imkain, if that's the case, kilo shama lomale le'meimer. But if that's the case, then why is he saying anything when he hasn't heard them, right? We're saying that before she gets married, he says, look, I don't know about your nedarim. Any nedarim you may have made, I'm being made for now. And we're saying, yeah, but that doesn't actually work. He has to be made for when he hears them. So then what's the point of saying that? Well, it's teaching us that it's the ways of the Torah scholars to remind her so that maybe she'll remember, oh yeah, I made such and such a neder, and she'll mention it, and then he can be made for it. Tashma komenir miseifa. What does it say in the continuation of the Mishnah? V'chein haba. And similarly, the fiance at Shaloti Kanis L'Shusa until they actually get married, Omerla, he says to her that that he's being made for the Nedarim. So here also he didn't hear it. So then it's answered to Gemara de Omar. L'chishama. So also it's talking about when he actually hears it. Tashma, come in here. Ha'omer le'ishto, a fellow says to his wife, Kol nedarim shetaduri ad she'avu mimakum ploni. Any nedarim you make while I'm away until I come back, harei hein kayomin. They are kayomin. If between now and the time I come back you say you're not going to eat pizza, well, I hope you don't like pizza because you're not going to be eating any pizza. Lo amar klum, we say that's irrelevant. You can't do that. Harein mufarin, but if he says that they are mufarin, that if you say until I get back, if you say you're not going to eat pizza, forget about it. It's bottle, it's muffer. Rabbi Eliezer Omer says Rabbi Eliezer muffer. It works. V'halo shama, and we see that in that case he's not actually hearing her say that she's not going to eat pizza. He's saying I'm going to be away, but if you say that that you're not going to eat pizza, forget about it. So he says, look, it's not going to be bottle. It's going to be bottle when I find out about it. So okay, he can't be made for the neder if he hasn't heard it. But what he's saying is that when I find out about it, when I come back and I hear that you said that you're not going to eat pizza, you should know it's going to be bottle. Vilama li min hashto l'chishama leifila. Well, then why does he? If he's saying that it's going to be mevotel when it's going to be muffer when he hears about it, so then why not wait until he hears about it? Why is he saying it now before he leaves? So kasar v'dilma matridno ayishaita. Well, we're concerned. He's concerned that maybe when he comes back and he hears about the neder, he's going to have a million other things going on, and he's not going to be paying attention, and then she's not going to be able to eat pizza. So he says, "Look, I'm telling you now that when if I hear about any neders that you made, they're going to be muffer." Tashma kaminira omer apotropis. A fellow says to his representative, any vows that my wife is going to make while I'm away, hofer, be made for those nedarim. And the representative was made for the nedarim. Yachol yu mufarin. Is it possible that they would be mufarin? Talmud lomar isha yikimenu v'isha yifirenu. Divrei Rabbi Yoshia. Says Rabbi Yoshia, no, the pasuk says that her husband needs to be the one to be made for, not any kind of representative. Amar lo Rabbi Yonasan. Rabbi Yonasan says to Rabbi Yoshia, but throughout our holy Torah, we have a concept of shlucho shel adam kamoso. A fellow's representative is like him. So shouldn't this representative be able to be made for her pizza neder? And even Rabbi Yoshia, he's saying in this specific case, mishum digzeres hakasavu, because he says, what do you want me to tell you? It says, ishi kimenu v'ishi yiferenu. It's digzeres hakasav, that he has to be the one to do it, the husband. Ishi kimenu v'ishi yiferenu. Avol duchulei alma shlucho shel adam kamoso. But everyone does hold of the concept of shlucho shel adam kamoso, that a fellow's representative is like him. V'alo shmialei. But how could it be that the husband can be mefer the nedarim? How could the husband be made for the nedarim? He didn't hear it. But here Oichet, he's saying, look, it's going to be muffer when I get back and I hear it. So why not just be mefer when he hears about it? Well, he was concerned that maybe when he gets back he'll be busy with a million things, he won't be focused, and he won't be made for it. So therefore he's saying now in advance that look, when I hear about it, it's already going to be muffer. Friends, that was Daf Ayin Beis of Masechta Nedarim. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.